Hey everyone, welcome back to The Deep Dive. Today we're diving into Winning by Jack Welch. You guys send in some excerpts and wow, this book is a goldmine of no-nonsense advice.
It's a classic for a reason. Welch doesn't hold back.
Not at all. So we're going to tackle some big topics today. Leadership, strategy, hiring, even how to deal with a bad boss. But first, let's start with something that Welch actually kind of hates. Mission statements.
He calls them abstract, overused.
Yeah, misunderstood.
Exactly. He thinks a lot of mission statements are just empty words.
But he doesn't dismiss them entirely, right?
No, he just thinks they have to be actionable. They got to translate into real behaviors, not just slogans on a wall.
Okay, so like less we value integrity and more. Right.
More like what Jamie Dimon did at Bank One. They literally created a document outlining their values and the specific actions that demonstrated those values.
Oh, interesting. So you can actually see, okay, if I want to embody this value, here's what I need to do it.
Exactly. And Welch contrasts this with companies where there's this huge disconnect between what they say they value and what actually goes on.
Oof. Yeah, he points to Enron and Arthur Anderson as examples of what can happen when there's that gap between words and actions. Not good.
Not good at all.
Okay, let's move on to another topic where Welch is known for his strong opinions. Candor. He's a big believer in straight talk.
He even calls it the biggest dirty little secret in business. Like we're all holding back our true thoughts.
And it's actually hurting us, right?
Right. He says it stifles creativity, slows down decision-making, even costs money in the long run.
So how do you become more candid without, being a jerk?
Well, Welch is not advocating for rudeness. It's about being direct, honest, but still respectful.
And he actually implemented a system at GE to encourage this, right? Their famous workout program.
Yeah, it was all about getting people in a room, airing out issues, making decisions fast. No sugarcoating.
Sounds intense.
It was, but it got results.
Okay, now for the topic that always sparks debate. Differentiation. Welch's famous 20-70-10 system.
You're talking about ranking employees, the top 20, the middle 70, and the bottom 10.
Yep. And Welch is very clear about what he thinks should happen to that bottom 10. He says they gotta go.
It's definitely one of his most controversial ideas.
For sure. People say it's cruel, Darwinian, unfair. But Welch has some pretty strong rebuttals to those criticisms.
Like, he actually thinks it's the kindest system in the long run because it forces everyone to be honest about performance. And it gives those bottom 10 a chance to find a job where they can excel.
Okay, so transparency is key here, right? Clear expectations, regular feedback, so no one's surprised.
Absolutely. It's not about being arbitrary or playing favorites.
Let's shift gears a bit. Welch also talks a lot about voice and dignity in the workplace.
Meaning everyone feels valued and heard regardless of their position.
Right. He actually credits GE's workout program for helping create that kind of environment.
Because it gave a platform to people who might not normally speak up, right?
Exactly. And sometimes those unexpected voices have the best ideas.
That's a key insight for sure.
Okay, let's talk leadership. Welch lays out 6 rules, and some of them are a bit unexpected.
Like the idea that leaders should be constantly upgrading their team, using every interaction as a development opportunity.
Right. He believes that even casual conversations can be teaching moments.
And it's not just about talking. It's about leading by example, walking the walk.
He also talks about gut call courage, the willingness to make tough, unpopular decisions.
And the courage to admit when you're wrong, too.
Right. Creating a culture where it's okay to fail as long as you learn from it.
Psychological safety is huge, yeah.
Okay, moving on to talent. Welch has a very specific approach to hiring.
Starting with those 3 non-negotiable qualities: integrity, intelligence, and maturity.
And then he adds on this whole framework he calls the 4 E's and a P. Positive energy, energize others, edge, execute, and passion.
He's looking for that spark, that drive. It's not just about skills on paper.
Right. And he's got some great stories about how those qualities show up in unexpected places.
Yeah, sometimes the best hires don't come from the most obvious backgrounds.
So you've got your dream team assembled. Now what? Welch has a lot to say about managing people effectively.
He starts with the importance of a strong HR team.
But not just any HR team. He talks about finding that pastor-parent balance.
Empathetic, but also able to hold people accountable.
Exactly. And he believes they play a crucial role in managing those inevitable charged relationships that come up in any organization.
Whether it's conflicts between departments or dealing with difficult personalities, HR can be a mediator and a guide.
He also emphasizes the importance of a rigorous evaluation system, not just those once-a-year reviews.
It should be ongoing, transparent, and taken as seriously as financial compliance.
And he's a big believer in differentiated rewards, recognizing and rewarding those who go above and beyond.
It's about motivating people, letting them know their efforts are valued.
He also talks about facing those charged relationships head on. Whether it's a difficult employee or a demanding client, avoiding conflict just makes things worse.
It's better to address issues directly, even if it's uncomfortable.
And finally, he reminds us not to take the middle 70% for granted. They may not be superstars, but they're the backbone of the company.
They need just as much attention and development as the top performers.
Okay, time to tackle the tough stuff. Letting people go. Firing someone is never easy, but Welch argues it's a necessary part of building a winning team.
He talks about 3 types of firings. For integrity violations, for economic reasons, and for non-performance.
And he focuses on that last one, those situations where someone just isn't meeting expectations.
He says the key is no surprise, minimal humiliation.
Meaning the firing itself shouldn't be a shock because you've been honest and transparent about performance all along.
And even though you're letting them go, you still treat them with dignity and respect.
He shares some cringeworthy stories about how not to do it.
Like the story of Richard, who was completely blindsided by his firing and ended up creating a toxic environment for everyone else.
It's a good reminder that how you handle departures can have a ripple effect throughout the organization.
And he warns against the dead man walking effect, where everyone knows someone's about to be fired, but the manager keeps delaying the conversation.
Just prolonging the agony for everyone involved.
Exactly.
He also gives some practical advice on how to actually have that difficult conversation, deliver the news with compassion, and help the person find a soft landing.
It's about recognizing that even if they're not the right fit for your team, they still deserve respect and support.
Okay, change. Love it or hate it, it's a constant in the business world. Welch acknowledges that it's often met with resistance, but he believes it's essential for winning.
He has 4 key practices for making change happen effectively. First, attach every initiative to a clear purpose. People need to understand the why.
Yeah, he uses the example of GE's appliance business in the late 70s. He knew they needed to change, but he had to make the case, connect the changes to a larger goal to really get people on board.
And he talks about the importance of communicating early and often, even when you don't have all the answers. Just being transparent about the challenges and the need for change.
His second practice is to hire and promote those who embrace change. He calls them change agents.
They bring that energy and enthusiasm to the process.
And his third practice, remove resistors. He's pretty blunt about that. He says holding on to people who actively resist change just creates a toxic environment.
And it slows everyone down.
He shares a story about Bill Harrison, the CEO of JP Chase, who asked a well-respected, high-level exec to leave during a major change initiative. It was a risky move, but he believed it was necessary for the health of the organization.
Sometimes you have to make tough decisions to move forward.
Welch's fourth practice is to look for opportunities in calamities. He believes that crises can actually present unique opportunities for growth and innovation.
Like how some companies saw opportunity in Japan during a time when everyone else was predicting economic doom.
It's a good reminder that change, even when it's forced upon us, can lead to positive outcomes.
It forces us to adapt and find new ways of doing things.
Speaking of uncomfortable situations, let's talk crisis management. Welch starts with the reality. Crises happen. They're painful. But he offers 5 key assumptions for navigating them effectively.
First one.
Yeah.
Assume the problem is worse than it appears.
Don't sugarcoat it.
Right. Face it head on.
He uses the example of GE's time card crisis, where he initially underestimated the severity of the situation and it cost them.
Ouch.
Yeah. It's a reminder to always prepare for the worst-case scenario, his second assumption.
Assume you and your organization have something to do with it. Don't play the blame game. Take responsibility.
Even if external factors played a role, there are almost always internal issues to address as well. His third assumption.
Assume the media's going to find out.
So don't try to hide it.
Exactly. Be transparent. Get ahead of the story.
He uses examples from Johnson & Johnson and the New York Times to illustrate how honesty and full disclosure, even when it's painful, can actually help protect your reputation in the long run.
It's about building trust.
Okay, fourth assumption.
Assume there will be changes in processes and people. Crises often force us to reevaluate how we do things.
And sometimes who's doing them?
Right. He highlights how GE had to make significant changes after a trading scandal, both in terms of their risk management processes and the people in charge.
And his final assumption. This one's important.
Assume your organization will survive, ultimately stronger.
Don't give up hope. Believe in your ability to overcome challenges.
He talked about how GE learned valuable lessons from every crisis they faced, emerging as a smarter, more resilient organization.
Okay, let's get strategic. Welch has a very straightforward approach to strategy. Pick a direction and execute.
He's not a fan of overcomplicating things.
No. He thinks too many companies get bogged down in analysis paralysis. Strategy should be about making clear choices and taking action.
He outlines a three-step process. First, find the big aha, the key insight that will drive your competitive advantage.
Like GE shifting away from commodity businesses and towards high-value technology and services, they realized their strength was in innovation, not just competing on price.
His second step is putting the right people in the right jobs to make that big aha a reality.
Right people, right seats, on the right bus.
Exactly. And his final step is to relentlessly seek out and adapt best practices. Never stop learning.
He talks about how GE studied companies like American Standard and Walmart to identify areas where they could improve.
Always be learning from others. There's always room for improvement.
Okay, let's talk about something everyone loves. Budgeting. Just kidding, it's usually a painful process.
Yeah.
But Welch has some strong opinions about how it should be done.
He thinks traditional budgeting methods are flawed, encouraging internal competition rather than ambition and growth.
He paints this picture of those dreaded budget meetings where everyone's fighting for resources and padding their numbers. He thinks it stifles innovation.
Instead, he proposes a system of operating plans with stretch goals, setting ambitious targets that push people beyond their comfort zones.
He gives an example from GE where both their appliances and plastics divisions were rewarded, even though they had very different outcomes. What mattered was they were both pushing for growth.
Aligning incentives with long-term value creation.
And he's big on transparency throughout the budget process, open and honest conversations about goals, challenges, and resources.
It's about building trust and buy-in.
All right, let's talk growth. Welch differentiates between organic growth, expanding from within, and growth through M&A. He starts with organic growth, which he thinks is actually harder for established companies.
Yeah, he outlines a few common mistakes companies make. First, underinvesting in new ventures,
Waiting too long to commit resources because they want to see proof of concept first.
which can stifle innovation.
Exactly. He stresses the importance of being bold, putting your best people in charge, giving them the freedom to experiment, like Rupert Murdoch did with Fox News. He invested heavily from the start, and it paid off.
It's a good lesson in calculated risk-taking.
Welch also talks about the importance of making noise about your new ventures, both internally and externally. Building momentum, attracting talent, generating buzz.
Like a proud parent showing off their kids' achievements.
Okay, now for the fun part. M&A. Everyone loves a good merger or acquisition.
Well, Welch is a bit more cautious. He sees the excitement, but he also sees the potential for disaster.
He outlines 7 common mistakes companies make. First one, merging for the wrong reasons. Ego-driven deals, empire building.
Not a good foundation for success.
He also warns against doing too many deals, getting caught up in the deal heat and losing focus on your core business, like Tyco International, which went on a massive acquisition spree that ultimately backfired.
It's a reminder to stay focused and not get distracted by shiny objects.
His third mistake, over-negotiating, dictating terms, creating resentment from the start.
It's about approaching M&A as a partnership, not a conquest, building trust and rapport.
His fourth pitfall, integrating too timidly, prolonging uncertainty, hindering momentum.
He thinks integration should be quick, decisive, with clear communication. Like when Honeywell merged with Allied Signal and the integration dragged on forever, creating a lot of anxiety.
Mistake number 5, the conqueror syndrome, marching in and replacing all the key positions with your own people.
Disregarding the talent and experience of those from the acquired company.
He tells the story of GE buying a plastics business from BorgWarner and then replacing their sales force, which led to a loss of valuable customer relationships.
It's about valuing the knowledge and experience that comes with an acquisition.
Mistake number 6, paying too much, getting caught up in a bidding war.
Which can make it impossible to ever realize a return on your investment.
Like Quaker Oats buying Snapple for way more than it was worth.
Gotcha.
And his final pitfall, resistance from acquired employees.
Leading to talent drain, cultural clashes, and integration headaches.
It's crucial to address those concerns build a sense of belonging, and create a unified culture.
It's about making everyone feel like they're part of the team.
Okay, we've covered a lot of ground here. Let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we'll dive into some of Welch's more personal insights on career management, work-life balance, and what it really means to win. Okay, we're back, and now we're shifting gears a bit to focus on your career. Welch starts with this idea of finding your people.
The people you really click with share your values, your work style.
Right, finding that right cultural fit, not just chasing a fancy job title.
Exactly. He tells this story about Claire, this MBA who went to work for a nonprofit, but
Didn't love it.
totally wrong fit. The pace was slow, everything was by consensus, and she's like this high energy, get things done person.
It's a good reminder that even a dream job can be miserable if the environment isn't right.
Absolutely. Self-awareness is key here. Knowing your strengths, your weaknesses, what makes you tick.
Welch also emphasizes choosing work that excites you, not just settling for what seems safe or prestigious.
He says passion matters. Tells the story about this guy, Bob, who took over his family business, but he wasn't really into it.
Oh, I can see that going wrong.
Yeah, he eventually made it work, but it was a struggle because his heart wasn't in it at first.
So sometimes those unexpected paths can lead to great things, but you gotta have that inner drive.
Makes a big difference.
Okay, so let's say you're ambitious, you want to climb the ladder. Welch is pretty blunt. There are no shortcuts to getting promoted.
Hard work, for sure. But he also says you can create your own luck.
How do you do that?
Two things. Delivering outstanding results.
Okay, being a top performer.
Right. Consistently exceeding expectations. And then not being a pain in the neck.
What does he mean by that?
Basically, don't be that person who's always late, demanding special treatment, creating drama.
Even if you're getting results.
Yeah, talent isn't enough. You got to be a team player.
Makes sense.
He tells this funny story about James, this brilliant consultant they hired at GE, but he was always late, demanding, just rubbed everyone the wrong way.
So he never got promoted?
Nope, never made it to the next level.
Okay, here's something we can all relate to. The bad boss.
We've all had one.
At least one. Welch actually gives some really good advice for dealing with those situations.
He starts by asking, what's the end game?
Meaning, is this boss going to be around for a while?
Exactly, because that impacts your strategy. If they're on their way out, you just got to ride it out, focus on your work.
Keep your head down.
Right. But if they're entrenched, you have to be more strategic. Assess the situation honestly.
Are there benefits to staying? Maybe you're learning a lot, the pay is good, whatever. But you also got to weigh that against the cost to your sanity.
He acknowledges that sometimes the cost is just too high.
Yeah, if it's truly toxic, you've got to get out.
But even then, he says, leave gracefully, don't burn bridges.
Good advice.
He shares a story about this guy, Lee, a total jerk of a boss. But he got away with it because he delivered amazing numbers.
So sometimes even in well-run companies, bad bosses can slip through the cracks.
It happens.
Okay, the topic everyone loves to hate, work-life balance.
The eternal struggle.
Welch doesn't sugarcoat it. He says it's a constant juggle, a series of trade-offs, and it looks different for everyone.
He uses this word swap,
Hmm.
like it's a deal you make with yourself.
Yeah.
What are you willing to prioritize? What are you willing to let go of?
And he has 3 things he really wants people to understand about how their boss views work-life balance. First, their priority is the company's success, not your personal happiness.
Not that they don't care about you as a person, but their job is to deliver results.
Second, most bosses are willing to accommodate work-life challenges, but only if you've earned it.
You got to prove yourself first.
Yeah.
Be that reliable, high-performing person, and then you can start those conversations about flexibility.
And third, those company policies about work-life balance. Yeah, those are mostly for recruiting.
Yeah.
The real deal is negotiated one-on-one.
It's about having open, honest conversations with your boss, recognizing that true work-life balance is a personal agreement, not a company-wide mandate.
He shares some inspiring examples, too. Like this guy, Gary Reiner, who traveled constantly for GE, but his boss bent over backward to accommodate his family needs.
And Susan Peters, who took time off for a family crisis and then came back to an even bigger role.
It shows that it is possible to have both a successful career and a fulfilling personal life.
It just takes some creativity and a supportive environment.
Welch also calls out that moaner mentality, people who constantly complain about work-life balance but don't want to take any responsibility for their own choices.
He highlights this CEO, Vivienne Cox, who prioritizes family time but doesn't make a big fuss about it. She just gets it done.
It's a good reminder that we have choices.
Yeah. And Welch's final thought on this is so good. He says, if you're not fulfilling your own joy with your plan, all the balance in the world is just duty.
It's about finding that sweet spot where you're achieving your goals and feeling fulfilled both personally and professionally.
That's the real win.
Okay, we've covered a lot of Welch's core principles from winning. But this book came from all those questions he got while traveling the world, speaking to people.
So it's not just a neat, tidy framework.
Right. This next section is a bit of a grab bag, some broader trends, challenges that he sees facing businesses and individuals today.
Stuff that didn't fit neatly into other categories.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And one of the biggest topics on everyone's mind then and now is China.
Its rise as an economic powerhouse.
Yeah, it's created both excitement and anxiety.
Opportunity and threat.
Welch sees both sides. He acknowledges China's strength, its huge market, rapid growth, increasingly innovative companies.
But he also sees the fear, the resentment that a lot of people in the developed world feel.
He encourages us to get past that victim mentality and focus on the opportunities.
Play to our strengths. Creativity, quality, customer service.
He believes there's room for both competition and de-collaboration.
Finding those win-win solutions.
He gives this example of GE Medical's joint venture in China. They learned a lot from their Chinese partner, but also provided access to GE's global network.
Mutually beneficial.
Another question that comes up a lot is diversity. Welch is a big believer in the power of diversity, but...
He's also clear that it's not just about checking boxes.
Right. It's about creating a truly inclusive environment where everyone feels valued and respected.
And empowered to contribute.
He shares this example from GE where this employee-led initiative, the African American Forum, really took off when a senior executive, Lloyd Trotter, stepped up to champion it.
Shows the importance of leadership support.
Yeah.
Having those people at the top who are willing to advocate for change.
And it's interesting how Welch connects this back to his belief in meritocracy. He's all for diversity, but he's against quotas.
He thinks forced diversity can backfire.
Yeah. It's got to be about promoting people based on their abilities, their potential.
Creating a level playing field.
He also gets asked a lot about his successor at GE, Jeff Immelt. And it's clear he's proud of the job Immelt did.
Especially navigating the company through some really tough times, like 9/11, the economic downturn.
Shows the importance of succession planning. Having strong leaders in place to carry the torch.
Definitely.
Welch also gets asked about the differences between business and government. You know, why things seem to move so much slower in the public sector.
He points out some key differences. Businesses have a clear profit motive, which drives decision-making.
A sense of urgency.
Right. Whereas government goals are often less clearly defined, harder to measure.
And there's the bureaucracy, the politics. It's not always a meritocracy.
Makes it tough to get things done efficiently.
And on a more personal note, Welch talks about having to give up golf after multiple back surgeries.
I can imagine that was tough.
It was a big loss for him.
Yeah.
But he reframed it, started collecting art, going to Red Sox games, put more energy into his consulting.
Finding new passions.
Yeah. It's a reminder that even when life throws you curveballs, you can still find ways to enjoy it.
To create a fulfilling life.
Okay, here is one of Welch's most powerful points. Winning in business isn't just about making money. He believes winning companies actually make the world a better place.
How so?
They create jobs, generate tax revenue, raise the standard of living.
He sees this connection between individual success and societal impact.
It's an interesting perspective. It challenges us to think about how our work contributes to something larger than ourselves.
To make the world a better place.
And that brings us to the end of our deep dive into Jack Welch's winning. What are your key takeaways?
What resonated with you?
How are you going to apply these insights to your own life and career?
Share your thoughts, your aha moments. We want to hear from you.
And remember, as Jack Welch would say, never stop learning, never stop growing, and never stop striving to win.
Until next time, keep diving deep.
It makes you think about the ripple effects, right?
Yeah, like how does my success impact others?
Exactly. It's not just about me winning. It's about how that win contributes to something bigger.
Creating a positive impact.
And Welch is a big believer in giving back, too. He says businesses have a responsibility to be good corporate citizens.
Supporting the communities where they operate, using their resources to make a difference.
It's about more than just profits.
Right. It's about values, ethics.
Integrity.
Yeah. Operating with transparency, fairness, being held accountable.
So as we wrap up our deep dives into winning, What are your big takeaways?
What really stuck with you?
What are you going to do differently tomorrow?
We want to hear your thoughts, your insights, your aha moments,
Share them with us. Let's keep this conversation going.
because this is about more than just reading a book, right? It's about applying these ideas to our lives
Making a difference.
and winning.
Exactly. Never stop learning, never stop growing, never stop striving to win.
Until next time, keep diving deep.